You're listening to Achtung, Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Yes, dear listeners, that noise you can hear, that huffing and puffing, the sound of smoke billowing through rural English tunnels, that is the sound of the Rowett train running. And joining me to discuss the terminus of the Rowett train service is our station master himself, our ticket collector. It's Mr. Michael Avery. Welcome back to the show, Michael. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good afternoon, listeners. Good afternoon, Nick. It's you talk about trains there. Anything to do with Gary Rowett reminds me of Casey Jr., the train from Dumbo. It was the circus train with all the clowns running around on it. But yeah, it seems to have got it more of a Euro style now, doesn't it? So well done, Gary.
Yeah. We're speaking, obviously, listeners, in the aftermath of last night's excellent 2-1 win up there at Pride Park, or whatever the sponsored name, if they still have a sponsor. I don't know. They're in financial deep trouble. Pride Park derby, 2-1 win over Wayne Rooney's Rams. Michael, that was one of the better away wins in Gary Rowett's tenure, and I'm starting to be reminded every time we have a really decent away win, and I'm thinking back to Forest, there's a consequent world-shattering event to take away the taste. We had pandemic in the aftermath of that win at Forest, and now today we have Russian invasion of Ukraine. I think there's a kind of a grand conspiracy to deny us a promotion playoff run. But that was some win last night. I thought it was a really, really well executed 3 points up there. How did you see it, mate?
Do you know what? To a point, and I'm going to sound like I'm going to contradict myself here a bit, but I saw some of the comments online from some people at the start of the second half saying about how we seem to be a bit leakier at the back, and some of the Derby players are making their way through with ease. But I think that's probably, compared to how Gary Rowett teams have been in the past, I think that's probably as close to as a faultless performance you will get. I really do. I think that first half we were clearly the better team. I mean, I went into the game thinking it would be a 1-1 or a 1-0 like cheeky smash and grab, but I thought we was excellent the first half. I don't think they could touch us. I thought defensively, yes, when they did get through us, Bart was doing his usual. We take his saves for granted. Some of those saves he was just excellent with. And yes, they did get through us a few times, but I think there was more times that Sean Hutchinson was rock solid than there was when people got past him. I thought Murray Wallace again showed why he's got to be at least considered for player of the season. I mean, before the Jed issues, it was nailed on to be Jed, wasn't it? But I think Murray deserves a shout out as well. I just think everyone played really well. Tyler Bury, Mason Bennett, class. A really good performance for me. Really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a rip-roaring start. That free kick from Jed inside I think it was bang on the first minute as it turned into the second minute, so to speak. And that was just one of those awkward free kicks, bounced in front of the goalkeeper from the left side, but it was whipped in at some pace. And if you deliver a well-placed ball like that, I mean, 9 times out of 10, the goalkeeper will save it, the defence will clear it. But there's always that one chance out of 10, as we saw last night, where it hits the deck in front of the goalkeeper and bounces straight past him. And what a start! I mean, that really put us on the right road, didn't it? That quick early goal. It's something we haven't seen. I was trying to think last time we scored early. Actually, I can't remember off the top of my head, but that was a wonderful start last night.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for any more. And the thing is, as well, with Jed, we always sound like we're broken records with him, but we said about people questioning whether his passion. Someone mentioned online, and he replied to it about whether he should be playing because of injuries and all that kind of thing. But you just saw just how much that goal meant to him, how much celebrating in front of the fans meant to him, and Jed Wallace fully fit just shows how important he is to Millwall Football Club, in my opinion. Because I know there was that period when he was out. And we said it ourselves, Nick, and without trying to be horrible to you here, I remember you saying about, do we miss Jed if he was to go in this window? But I even think how well we played last night. Jed was standout still. He was comfortable on the ball. He was whipping the ball in well. Like you said, he got the goal. I remember there was one time I put it in our chat, wasn't there, that I think Millwall, there was a bit of a mix-up at the back where we gave away a corner. He ran over and he was shouting at the defence, and the goalkeeper to kind of like pull their fingers out a bit. So he's a great player. He really is, Jed Wallace. It was a great goal, and like you say, we were just straight out the blocks. We was like greyhounds. As soon as those traps were open, we were there. We wanted the win, And considering there's a lot of rumours going around, in the sense that the season's over, there's nothing left to play for. We didn't play like a side where the season was over, did we?
No, we looked really hungry, and we set up with what is as close to an open style, I suppose, or a counter-punching style, some might call it. But by Gary Rowett standards, that was a good open, certainly in the first half, a good open display of the kind of football that I want to see. We've made the point on previous shows about the lack of entertainment, and I think that's a fair point for supporters to complain about. It is the reason that we go to watch football. Fundamentally, you're going there as a diversion from everyday life, and last night you got to take your hat off to that side, because that was, however he stumbled upon that front three. Injuries obviously have taken away key players, but suddenly we've got now Tyler Bury, Mason Bennett, and Jed Wallace as our, at the moment, first choice front three, and that's pace, movement, and creativity. And circumstances might have forced it upon us, Michael, but that's some front three. I really like the look of Bury and Jed. There's a statistic, I just picked it up here from Second Tier Podcast. I don't know where they've got the info from, but we'll take it as kosher. Number one of this list of a chance created every 31 minutes by Jed Wallace. Next is John Swift on 32 and Harry Wilson on 36. So basically a major contributor to this Mill side that has struggled at times this season. But alongside Tyler and Mason Bennett, who I really liked last night, and for the last, it's 3 games on the spin that we've won there, Michael. And that's some creative front line, and it's been a while since we've been in a position to say that, isn't it? I take my hat off to them.
Yeah, and I think as well with Mason Bennett, when Millwall signed him, obviously he was a bit of under a cloud of what happened in his off the field antics, if you will, and it obviously hadn't gone right for him where he was. But I think, again, I'm going to sound a bit silly here, but I didn't follow much of Mason Bennett as a player before, but you obviously hear of his potential, how good he could be. I think he's living up to all of his potential that was promised. I think he has been absolutely outstanding, and he has proved if he can stay fit for a run of games. I don't know how you do it, because I think it was either Ryan or Mike Hayden or someone on the last show said you just wrap him in cotton wool and make sure he doesn't get injured in training. But it goes to show you treat him properly, like training wise and health wise, and he doesn't get injured. What a player he is! What a player he is! And I think that yes, Jed has been outstanding when he's come back in, and last night he looked great. But as you say, then Mason Bennett. I mean, how long's left on his contract? Did he sign 18 months with us originally, or
I'd have to check. Can't remember, but yeah.
But if his contract isn't up at the end of the season, brilliant. If it is, I'd sit him down there and start sorting out maybe a 2-3 year deal, because he's obviously got some years in front of him. He's proved, yes, there's still that grey area with his fitness, but if you keep him fit, he's such a valuable asset, and he clearly loves the club. Clearly loves playing for this team. You see, every time he scores, he's like a kid who scores in a school game. On the playground, he's absolutely buzzing when he scores. So I'd tie him down for longer.
Yeah, well, if possible. I mean, Jed obviously did that imitation of the Mason Bennett dance now that's rapidly becoming an iconic goal celebration. It's like a cakewalk type dance in front of the fans. He did that for the opening goal. The power that Mason showed for the run into the box is exactly what we've been missing. That power run from slightly deep but straight into the penalty area, and then the ball back across the face of the goal, and it fell eventually after being blocked to Tyler Bury, who buried it for 2-0. And I thought at that point, I mean, there's actually previous chances to that, Michael. We were creating chances pretty much every time we were going forwards, and that's quite something. You can argue. I mean, I'm just looking through my notes from last night that when Derby had the ball, they, more in the second half perhaps, but certainly in the first half, they seemed to have players that were that could be dangerous, but they didn't create any direct danger. Shots such as they had were over the bar or wide. They weren't really forcing much out of Bart, and that's a tribute, I think, to the defence. So I don't know about you, I don't know about most Millwall fans or listeners to the show, but I don't mind defensive football if it's balanced with a lethal attack. And suddenly, from out of a most unexpected development in the season, given that it's not long since we lost 4 on the spin, we're now winning. suddenly we seem to have that balance of good defence balanced with an attack that looks very, very lively going forwards. It's the winning combination. And form is transformed overnight almost, isn't it?
Yeah, and you say that, and a moment that instantly came to my mind as you were talking, and it was, I think it was either a corner or a free kick. It was definitely a Derby attack, obviously, but we sort of won the ball and just done the classic counter attack. Not even a hoof and chase. It was like one pass out, two pass out wide, cut back inside, and you're thinking we've gone from having the ball on the edge of our 18-yard box, 3 good passes, and not hit and hope, but 3 good passes. We're now on the edge of their penalty box. And then I think that was when it was Jed cut it in. It wasn't the best of crosses in anyway. But like you say, it was good defending, which led to a very fast-paced, quick attack, which, you know, if you hit a pass on each either side, it's 3-0, even more game over. But yeah, I know we said at the start of the show, it was just a very entertaining game. And normally Millwall games on the red button, they're not the greatest, are they, for camera quality and commentary? But I just thought we was excellent. Did you watch it on the red button, Nick? Or was
no, I won't touch the red button. I watched one game when that service first began. Can't remember. I think it was Sheffield Wednesday, and I might as well have
probably
been
Sheffield Wednesday. That's the one everyone watched, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I thought for the want of a tenner, I was just paying watch it on iFollow, where you got sharp images, 4 cameras, I think, and
Billion Max,
and Billion Max, and so proper commentary. No, I don't touch it. So I don't know what it was like last night. I watched it on iFollow, plugged into the telly.
There was one bit. There was one bit an hour in, and even my wife commented on it when we were watching it. They said that Millwall was singing "No One Likes Us," and you could hear it on the red button. And you heard the commentator say, "Oh well, I'm not sure that's the case anymore. Of all the charity and community work they do, and this work and that work." And I'm thinking, Sky giving us a thumbs up, but in a positive way. There's got to be something wrong. That fella will probably never commentate on the Millwall game again.
No, the epoch is changing generally everywhere you look at the moment, and even Sky have got a soft spot suddenly from out. As I say, they'll probably get rid of him, out him completely. 2-0 at half time. I mean, I noted that was a good opening game, great start. Derby, but I thought Derby weren't done yet, and so it was for the second half, where fair play to Derby, Wayne Rooney. They changed it at half time. They really came at us in the second half, and it was a bit of a Rorke's Drift Alamo type sense in situation in the second half. But I thought we did very well to keep them at bay, because again, despite that sense of impending doom that you get when Millwall defending, they didn't get anything really directly in front of goal, Michael, which again is a tribute to the midfield and defence for me.
Yeah, exactly. And like we said, in the times they did go through, Bart was solid, wasn't he? He didn't make a mistake. He didn't put a foot wrong all night, really, in my opinion. I thought he was very good, Bart. But like you say with Derby, it's one of those things where, yes, financially they're banging trouble, aren't they? And I think technically, haven't they still got 4 or 5 days to prove they can be in business till the end of the season? Because
they're deeply in it, and I mean, both in terms of the table, the 21-point penalty has punished them in a way that is probably intended, because I think they looked like with about 8 or 9 points. I looked at the table, recording this, listeners, which is not very professional. I should have done, but I know they're about 8 adrift below Reading, who won the other night, didn't they? So yeah, I mean they're looking at League One football next season. Who knows what deal can be done with to sort their financial situation. It's going to have to be a good one, because you can see them doing another tumble, like Bolton have tumbled, and other clubs have tumbled, and Portsmouth and the like. So
I think with the state Derby are in, I think if you was a fan and you did survive this, I think you'd be like, when basically you had those 2 days where Bolton and Bury were basically going to go out of business, in the space of 48, 72 hours. And I think Bolton went down to League Two, and the sort of, even though they was down in League Two, they're in League One now, obviously, but they were very much, we're just lucky to be alive because look at Bury. I think, I don't know any Derby fans, so but I'm just presuming if I was in their situation and we went down to League One, and even if someone like Mike Ashley came in and put some money in to keep it afloat, the situation they're in now, you'd think at least we've got a football club. because there was an article on BBC. I'm not sure if it was BBC's way of trying to pull some heartstrings or whatever it was, but and I know it's not unique to Derby. Don't get me wrong, but they interviewed the local area, like local pubs and fish shops and all that, and basically the turnover of revenue to the local area is ridiculous if it like on match days. Again, I know it's not just the Derby, but there are so many people who are like, if Derby go under, we go under. It's not like London-based football teams where, you know, if there's no game on, you still might get someone just do a bit of sightseeing. Because I mean, you've been to what's the name? Say Pride Park. There's nothing there. I know there's that little outlet, but there's nothing there, is there? Really?
No, it's like a lot of small town England. Really, there's, you know, take away the football club, and you're right. I mean, it's a life sustaining force for that particular town. I mean, Derby's one of them. There are numerous others as you look. I mean, Bolton's probably another great example, because take away the football club, and who will ever think about Bolton? You wouldn't. You know, it's a harsh judgment, which London has the eternal advantage that, you know, you're in the midst of this kind of pulsating city. So no, I think the other thing I just wanted to say before we close on the game, because obviously there was the late one goal that gave us the classic Mill nervous last few minutes, the own goal from Jake, which is very unlucky in my opinion, to close the game 2-1. But there's a debate online, Michael, about Jed's worth to the team, which is evident from the performance last night that we saw, and the fact that his contract expires at the end of the season. We don't know what moves may or may not be afoot to try to tempt Jed to stay. I mean, he's been pretty open, and I respect this viewpoint. He wants, late in his career, he wants the chance to play at the top level, Premier League football, if it can be achieved. Now that's something we don't know how that will pan out. We don't know what offers might or might not be on his table, and whether other clubs will be headed upwards and would want him. But there was just following a little debate online before we started recording about people saying we should be throwing like a bonus at him, a £2 million bonus at him, and you know, multiplying his wage so it's worth his while to stay. I mean, firstly, what I'd say to that is I don't know that necessarily, in fairness to Jed, I mean, everyone's got to earn a living, and he's got to do the best that he can for himself. But I don't know it's necessarily just a money thing for him. I think it is also the professional desire to prove himself at the highest level. But also the other side to the coin is if we Millwall, if we did do that, then you bust your highly valuable wage structure wide apart. So you then create a situation where other players would want similar deals. So, and that's what's led many clubs, that chasing of the dream syndrome has done for clubs from Bradford to Bolton to Derby to, you know, others, loads of them are out there. So I think you've got to be a bit careful. It's very tempting to want your crown jewels to remain, but not at every cost, because fundamentally we all want Millwall Football Club to continue, don't we? Well, I believe we should anyway. I think if you put that in jeopardy, then you'll finish up with no football club at all at some point, potentially. So you've got to be a bit careful what you wish for on that front. How do you see those kinds of debates?
I agree. We should try our hardest to keep hold of him. Absolutely. But as you say, within our means, because you can, if you just look at apologies to anyone who's a Pompey fan and listening, or if any of the of Milan Mandaric or any of those might think I might listen to Achtung Mill this week, but it wasn't so long ago yeah, he might do, you know, I listen to this one. It wasn't so long ago that you had, you know, Peter Crouch, Jermaine Defoe, Lassana Diarra, Sol Campbell, the list goes on of players who play for Portsmouth. And now look at them, because they couldn't afford their wage structure. They certainly get more than we do. I can't. That's one thing we've always said about John Berylson, in the sense that he's sensible with his money. And one thing we've always praised John Berylson about being sensible with money. To give a player X amount of bonuses more and wages more and blow wage structures out the window just to keep a player who, if we are led to believe, already half has his head turned, isn't the best move for me. And like you say with Jed, he seems very open, very honest. He's been at the club a long time now when other offers have come in, so it's not purely just about the money. But if you was to join a team in the Premier League, as we were just saying there, you'd be playing at Old Trafford. You'd be playing at like even St James's Park, 60,000 people, the Emirates, the Etihad, you name these stadiums. It's not just about the money. And I think, well, Aaron's literally just joined our call now. I'll let you do the Nick, but he's the man to talk to when it talks about these things about structures and should we do this, should we do that.
Who are you talking about?
Talking about Jed, Aaron. Just a little debate. I mean, obviously we discussed the game last night and his contribution to it, and he's kind of his position in the club. I mean, he's clearly coming towards the end of a contract at the end of this season. And there was a debate that I followed online about whether Millwall should really bust the bank to try to get him to be tempted to stay. And at the end of the day, Jed Wallace has got to do the best he can financially for his family. But I just get a sense with Jed that he wants to professionally test himself against the very best, which means Premier League football. So I don't know that it's not just the money, if that makes any sense, though I'm not naive to think that money isn't a factor.
It's ambition, isn't it?
Ambition and desire to test yourself against the best defenders and so on. So we're just debating the wisdom of such an offer, whether Millwall would be wise to really effectively blow its own wage structure wide apart, because you can create a rod for your own back. And we've seen other clubs pay the costs of that. And we're thinking of Derby, we're thinking of the likes of Bolton and all the others that have kind of carried that weight. So as great a player and as great a contribution as Jed made to us last night, I'm not sure that we should make a balanced effort to keep him without going over the top.
Yeah, I agree with you about the balanced effort. I think there's got to be a longer term plan here. And again, as I say from last week, I don't think the club have given up hope on Jed staying. He's I've sort of been very fortunate to speak to him quite often on a weekly basis, and he's always reiterated his love for the club. There's just something about Jed Wallace. He loves Millwall Football Club. Really, really, really does. He's buzzing when they win. He's deflated to fuck when they lose, believe me. Like, really is. Very emotive character. And he just loves the place. But at his age, he knows he hasn't got many chances left to play Premier League football. And he wants to play Premier League football. However, he's always said to me he wants to play Premier League football with Millwall. Now, Jed isn't going to get a move to a team that is, flying in the Premier League. You look at the money that Aston Villa have spent and the names they've brought in. You look at West Ham, the way they're doing things. You just look at clubs out there and the way they're operating. It's going to be a club that are getting promoted or are going to be challenging for promotion next year.
Yeah.
Should Millwall break the bank to keep him? I don't think it's money, Nick. I really don't.
No, I don't get.
Yeah, that's what we were just saying.
Because just watching his celebrations last night. I mean, you're right. I think he does love it at the Den, Jed. His contribution doesn't, over the years since he's been here, has been immense. He's our talismanic, creative attacking player, and I think anyone, if you take a step back from the Millwall situation, he deserves a chance to pit himself at the top level. I think you're right about it won't be an established Premier League side that comes in for him. I think, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know. It's going to be probably the playoff team that goes up that will be more the shout on that. But I couldn't begrudge him his chance to test himself at that level. I just think, he's got nothing to prove to Millwall fans now, and I think last night's performance reinforces that. He was instrumental in that excellent win.
Achtung, Millwall.
Hello, Nick. Tony Mundy. Another good win tonight. 300 spin. And yeah, it's just sort of clicked. I think this is what we've probably been trying to achieve all along with this system. And obviously the players we've had, it's not happened. I know, and other times we have put the extra midfielder in and we have went defensive like at Blackpool, but we're definitely not that now. We're playing this sort of 3-4-3. And I know it becomes 5-2-3, but it's 3-4-3 in the main. And the back three have they've just become got all their confidence back from a couple of years ago, and they look like they can't be beaten. I know it was a freak goal tonight. The Cardiff goal was like literally, was it 94th minute or something? And we just look so assured at the back, and the midfield too. I mean, Mitchell, I've been a bit critical of him the last couple of months, but I've noticed the last couple of games he's stepping out of the midfield and winning the ball really high up the field, and then we're setting these breaks away. And the front three, they look unstoppable. I mean, you wouldn't want to defend against them, would you? Because they're not. Whereas we had a phobia as a focal point, we haven't got that now. We've literally got three of them buzzing all over the front line and almost impossible to pick up, especially with the pace of them. I thought we controlled the whole game, even though we didn't have the ball. They had the ball, but they couldn't do anything with it. We were just so good, and we're enjoying the football again. I think that's what we've been aiming for the fans, anyway, for ages. The results are coming, but I don't think the results would matter too much if they see what we're doing and we see the effort we're putting in. I think if it was 0-0 half time, I think we come out and probably score 2 or 3 goals in the second half today. I think we was that much in control. We broke away 4, 5, 6 times in the second half anyway. We could have made more, but we didn't. But there we go, 2-1. But I thought it was a better than a 2-1 win, if I'm honest. And I'll be honest, I fancy us to turn Sheffield over on Saturday. But in this form, who knows? But I'll leave it there, Nick. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Achtung, Millwall.
We made a joke at the start of the show about the Rowett train is finally rolling. I mean, is it too late, do you think, Aaron? I mean,
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think that the return of the head of recruitment shows
Alex,
that shows that the management structure won't be changing anytime soon. When I spoke to Gary Wright last week, he said, "I'm always nervous when John Barrowson comes to the country because you don't know what's going to happen." But let me tell you that everyone at the club backs the gaffer. Everyone at the club backs the project. I think, yes, his hand has been forced because of injuries, and he's had to change the way the style in which the team plays. He's had to change things up with Mason Bennett playing in a very attacking role, and he's coming to let's hope he can retain some fitness and keep doing what he's doing. But, again, I hate saying this because I say it every year. It's going to be a big summer, boys. It's going to be a big summer. Can Millwall contend with clubs? They're already spending, a good amount of money in terms of budget in the championship. The wage budget is consistently going up. They're trying to show ambition in what is a difficult market. The problem we have here is that, we haven't got the eyes and ears on the ground that some of the other clubs do in terms of picking up players here and there and grabbing a bargain and doing bits and pieces. It's always going to be difficult, but I really think that the club's going to back Gary Rowett now, because arguably, who else are you going and getting out there? When you sit there and look around at the other managers, are you going to go out and get a progressive, forward-thinking manager? Who would you get? Luke Garrard from Boreham Wood, maybe? But that's a massive risk. You go out and you're stuck, because you go out and get a progressive, forward-thinking manager. They want a budget. They want to reshape the squad in the way that they want to do things. And then it could come 8 months down the line that you are bottom or in those relegation places with a squad full of players that someone else has brought in, and you've got to bring someone in to try and fix it.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, just to touch on that, Aaron. Funny thing you say that. You and Ryan, or Ryan and someone else a few weeks ago was saying about the Swansea manager. Was it Russell Martin?
Yeah.
What a great job he was doing, and like Ryan was saying about sort of the level of football Swansea are playing and the standard. I saw an article, I think it was on BBC or Sky the other day, like some of the fans of his head So, like you say, football's such a, and we all know it anyway, but football's such a fickle game. You know, like Rowett's gone from Rowett out, see you later on, we'll all drive you back up to Stoke or Birmingham or Derby, whichever one of the three clubs you've been at and want to go back to, like you say, Nick, the train's now rolling again. Are the playoffs back on? And Russell Martin, who was like the saviour of Swansea City, is now on his, seemingly looks like him, not on his way out exactly, but people are asking questions of him. So, yeah, it is a big summer.
Michael, Millwall 12th in the league. When you look at the recruitment, when you look at everything and factor everything in, is that not a fair position?
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree. I totally agree with you there, because we've like we've said before, it's budgets. We don't have big budgets, we don't have big wage structures, and there's, I think you said it before, Aaron. When was the last time Gary Rowett had a fully fit side to choose from? You know, when every single player's available. When was it?
Yeah, it's been a while. I think a while.
Look at West Bromwich Albion above him. Look at West.
Well, I was just going to say West Brom, Aaron, and Forest only 2 points in front of us.
You know, Forest 2 ahead, and everyone's waxing lyrical about Steve Cooper. You know, Preston on the resurgence with Ryan Lowe. Stoke have disappointed this season. Bristol City have been poor. Swansea have been poor. Birmingham have been poor. Cardiff have been poor. Reading have been shit.
Reading are poor. Yeah.
You know, Reading are very, very shit.
Yeah.
It's a very strange league. Anything could happen. People sat there sitting talking about the playoffs. I'm not going to write the playoffs off for Millwall at all. You don't know what comes around the corner. You don't know what's going to happen. You've now built in a half-decent sequence. Yesterday could have been difficult. We know how well they've played, all right, although I think the Derby candle's starting to flicker a bit. Just a tap. Who knows? This is a free hit for Gary Rowett and co, isn't it?
Well, it is. The pressure is, in my opinion, that the pressure is off. I mean, as you look at the table, you're spot on there. And I mean, there are some big names, some expensive sides around us sitting in 12th. It's still going to be a big ask. I don't think anyone should be under any illusion, but aren't we the classic underdogs? You know, whenever we're expected to win, we flop, and it's when backs are to the wall that Millwall comes into its own. So some big games. I mean, starting with Sheffield United on Saturday, 6th place Sheffield United on 53 points, who will come to the Den hungry for the points themselves. But if that's not a big game scenario, which is why we go, that's why we follow the club. It's for these big moments, and a win on Saturday, and all hell breaks loose, doesn't it? Because suddenly I think that anything can become possible.
I really think, Nick, looking at that Sheffield United game, they're there for the taking. They're not amazing. There's a lot of teams out there that flatter to deceive. That they go on these little 3, 4, 5 game runs, and people could argue that Millwall on that right now. They go on these little runs, and people think, "Oh shit!" They look at the table. "Oh shit! Yeah, they're good, aren't they? Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad." Mate, this is the Championship. Anything can happen. Paul Heckingbottom's coming after Jokanovic. He's had to stabilise things and try and look up. Yes, they're lurking around the playoffs, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to come to the Den and get beaten, because I reckon they could get beaten.
It's going to be a good atmosphere on Saturday. I mean, one thing that really struck me, Michael, last night, I don't know if it struck you. I mean, the last few games, obviously, that's our 3rd win on the spin, but the players look suddenly hungry. I mean, you can talk about the eternal question of lack of depth of squad when we're bringing Zach Lovelace in late, and, you know, he looked a boy playing in a men's game last night for me in those few minutes that he had. But that first choice 11 looks hungry for it, and that's invaluable, because if we're going to get a madcap run, then you're going to need a hungry squad, and I think we do have that. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the last quarter of the season. Yeah,
no, they certainly. Again, I'm not going to go too over the top and go, "Oh, it's a completely different side," but they were playing. They were playing with a bit more attitude and hunger. And the thing is, there's, again, I'm not sure who said it on a previous show, or it might have been on another pod before, but this team really does seem together. Like Aaron was saying about how they all like back Gary Rowett, and like they obviously believe in the project. And if Gary Rowett is sitting these players down who are playing at the moment and go, you know, the way it's going at the moment and the way I envision it, you will be the ones who come with me to the Premier League if we get there, that togetherness is unbelievable, and he's done a very, very good job getting the players like that, because the pressure he's been under, some of the boos around the Den when we play, awful. I mean, we said it, apart from the Birmingham game, there's not been too many high points at the Den this season. But to have them playing like that together, that confident, yeah, they're hungry. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. And you could see they were going in for tackles yesterday. They was chasing down every ball. Again, Bart was looking good. They was having a go at each other when they made mistakes, but they was patting each other on the back when it was going well. So, like I said at the start of the show, and to repeat myself again, it was as close as a complete performance as you get, in my opinion.
Some high motivation. Mason Bennett looked like he was playing with extra effort last night, and I think Scott Malone also, the same, which is great to see, and long may that continue. I also want to pay tribute to the travelling. I think it was 500 or 600 that went up there.
Yeah, well done, guys.
Just been reading. Big EOG Popper said he just got back. This was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. To Peckham from Derby. The M1 was closed, the M6 was closed, the A14 was closed, the M11 was closed, and as he puts it, he zigzag his way back to London. So well done, the travelling.
Well done, everyone. I mean, I think the
and to be fair as well, a lot of them also went up to Blackburn last weekend. So
well done, everyone. Well done,
double well done.
I mean, I know they chucked, a load of pies on Coach One. I think it was Michael, but from what I understand, speaking to Steve Kavanagh on Monday night, the club are fuming. The club are fuming
with Saturday's debacle.
Yeah. If you want to go back and listen to it, it's on BBC Sounds. I think 7. If you go to London Sports Show, it's 1 hour 45 in. Steve Kavanagh joins me, and he was absolutely fucking livid. And the thing is, it looks really dodgy from a Blackburn perspective, doesn't it? Because firstly, Preston down the road, they've gone and cleared the pitch. The Millwall media team were clearing the pitch. Max and Billy and all them lot in their flipping suits out there with shovels. And Steve just turned around and said, we did all we could. Anyone who could pick up a shovel picked up a shovel to go and try and clear the pitch to get the game on. But it just stunk because of I can't obviously sit here and say that Blackburn did it deliberately, but it looks ropey, doesn't it?
It looks very bad. It's a very hard thing to prove. I mean, you can pull together a lot of circumstantial things like the switching on or off, or whatever the case may be, with the under pitch heating, the lack of prep for clearance of snow when it's been predicted overnight, and the loss of their leading goal scorer, the one man that might have caused serious damage to the Mill defence. So there's loads of circumstances. It's quite a hard thing to prove. But fair play to the club for arguing out our corner. I don't know what sanction, if any, the Football League can or will do. I'm going to bet on very, very little, but we'll see.
Nick, I said to Steve, it's all well and good giving refunds to those who come on a coach and stuff, but what about all those lot who drove? What about all those lot who took trains? What about all those other lot who spent who spent money trying to get
big
there,
money,
and basically fucked up? It's expensive, man. Train travel is expensive, really, really pricey. They've probably worked a bloody hard week. They've got up at a ridiculous o'clock in the morning to try and go and follow their football team, and at 2:15. They've decided to pull the game. Absolute shambles. Absolute shambles, mate.
Achtung, Millwall.
So, another win for Gary Rowett's unbelievable Lions. And I say unbelievable because 3 games ago, did anyone see this happening? I know he claimed that he thought we were going to be better than what we've been, and I was a doubter, as you all know. But playing that type of football, that counter-attacking football, is so incisive when we go forward. Tyler Bury, Jeb Wallace and Bennett up front, that's the best front 3 as a combination we've had in years. I love Bury. I think, he's another Jed, and he plays off the other side. So, you got to beg the question, why hasn't he been playing before? But with stumbled onto this formation, this way of playing late on in the season, and let's hope it's not too late. Let's hope, we keep playing this way, and we'll see where we end up. But at least it's a breath of fresh air to play this way. And I know that they scored late on by some kind of fluke. I don't know if it actually went in off Coops, or he's tried to get out of the way of it at the last minute, but it's gone in to make it the traditional nervy Millwall finish. But they never really threatened. I thought we could have had 4 or 5 chances in the first half, or if we'd been a little bit more clinical, we could have taken them. Bury missed one before he later scored. But all in all, a great night's work. It's another win. It's in our own hands. We've got Sheffield United this weekend, and then we've got Reading again, a team down the bottom that we should go and beat, and then we've got Middlesbrough, who are 6th. So it's in our own hands. It's our own destiny. There's still long enough in the season that if you beat the teams in and around you, you'll go in front of them. We've got 2 games in hand on Huddersfield. It's important. We've got to, if we are serious, and it looks like the players believe, which is always a thing, and maybe a few of us will start to believe, including myself now too. So, really, really positive night for the Lions. Really, really positive result. Roll on Saturday. Come on, you Lions.
Achtung, Millwall.
Well, I was amazed to see, and it actually seemed to work quite well. But Reading have axed their manager in favour of the dad of one of the players, Paul Ince, the ex-West Ham, Manchester United stalwart. But they brought him in. Someone compared it with what you do with your under-7 side when someone drops out, the dad of another one comes in and takes over from him.
This was a crazy story. I was at Brighton Burnley on Saturday. Yeah. And in fact, let me go back to last week. Sort of 2 Mondays ago, where Reading fans banging down the my Twitter because I said that I said that Veljko Paunovic, the manager, wasn't being sacked when everyone thought he was.
Right.
So I've managed to bat them away, which has been fun. Some interesting cases out there. Let's just say that. And we get to Saturday. Of course, they play Peterborough midweek. They draw there, I believe. Yeah. Then they get to Saturday and they win. So I'm doing my interviews post match, and my phone's on Do Not Disturb. And suddenly I take it off Do Not Disturb, and it's like bam, 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 bam. And what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And I've been sent a statement from someone at Reading. And if you look at the way they crafted this, it's really, really clever, because they knew that they'd get all the positive feed, like sort of the positive like tweets and vibes of the fact that Paunovic had been sacked. So what they've done is they've written this long statement, and just at the bottom it's like, former England captain Paul Ince will take over. Literally, I promise you, I nearly my jaw was on the floor when I saw that. This is a man who was last in charge of Blackpool 8 years ago.
Yeah,
has been desperate to get back in the game. Touted himself as well, the fact he could do better than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Manchester United. Baffling is the word. Reading offered no comment. I went to their game against Birmingham on Tuesday. The funny thing is Birmingham played really, really well. Lyle Taylor was fantastic up front. And but for a couple of mistakes, they would have won that. They lost it in the end. The atmosphere was okay, very interesting. But Reading fans afterwards were like, this is great. It's a revolution, blah, 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 blah. He's going to be great, X, Y, Z, blah. And I'm like, what the hell? There's a few things that stink here. Firstly, no one knows if he's staying to the end of the season. No one knows if this is an interim appointment until they find a new manager. They're hiring coaches left, right, and centre. Does this mean that he's staying? It's looking likely that he's going to keep them up. The only thing I think that they could send them down is the fact that Grant McCann's at Peterborough now, and he could do a job on him. He knows how to get results.
Right.
But that is a really strange club. Now, if you want to hear more on Reading FC, I've managed to pull the exclusive out of exclusives, which we're recording in about an hour's time. I've managed to track down to John Medeski, and I'm going to find out what he thinks about these owners pillaging his club that he built up in the 90s and early 2000s. And I'm going to get his opinion on the appointment of Paul Ince. But yeah, Paul Ince in at Reading is one of the strangest things. I mean, strange managerial appointments, Nick. It's got to be up there with Tony Adams at Granada, isn't it?
or Mark Hughes popping out of nowhere to take over at Bradford City. I'm just reading, continuing the Manchester United legend theme here.
He's not really liked anymore.
Is he not, Mark?
No, well, because of his affiliation with City. But
I see.
It's if you look at it in the space of 24 hours, 3 clubs have reappointed old managers. You've got Paul Simpson in at Carlisle United. You've got Derek Adams in at Morecambe, and you've got Grant McCann in at Peterborough. So 3 clubs have gone back to their old managers. As my old man always used to say, never go back to an ex. No one seems to be listening. So you know what, more for them.
Let that be good advice to all you listeners out there, all you youngsters out there.
That's it. But Mark Hughes at Bradford is baffling, to say the least.
There we are.
And really,
the other one that I had to laugh. I mean, just to close us was I watched a clip of Antonio Conte at Tottenham, almost inviting his ball to consider his position. I don't know if you saw that one, Michael. Generally speaking, it's imposed on you. Don't ask for it unless you're going to resign.
That severance pay must be huge, mustn't it? But do you know what the thing is? One thing with Conte is that I know he's always had a few bob, and I think Aaron, we spoke about it, didn't we, with Inter Milan? I think wasn't one of the reasons he left Inter Milan because they basically said at the end of last season, even though you've won the title, we're going to have to sell everyone because we can't afford it.
Basically.
And I think at least with Conte, he has said from the beginning since he's walked through the doors at Spurs, basically in sort of, to paraphrase my bad Italian, but core blimey, this is a bad job, or this is a big job.
That is terrible Italian.
Right,
it's sapristi.
A watered down version of holy shit, what have I done?
Basically, and this goes back to the point. At least you've got to admire his honesty in the sense where he's been saying it for months now. I think he's had a transfer window, hasn't he? Like obviously, you've still got a centre forward in Harry Kane who only basically performs when he wants to, rather than like consistently. And I think he's being honest, but this goes back to just talking on with Conte. This goes back to it with Spurs. Every single manager basically comes in and goes, "Cool, this is hard," So it shouldn't be a surprise to Spurs fans who are obsessed with making the top 4 and winning the league. If you've got managers the caliber of Mourinho and Conte not able to do anything there is something seriously wrong.
It's going to be so fascinating to see what happens with them because, it's all again down to like the common denominator here is Daniel Levy. And the fact that his transfer dealings are shit. I mean, we sit here and we look at Bodvarsson and Scalak and stuff. Jesus, this is that on like a scale times 100. You look at some of the duds they've brought in. I mean, you look at the fullback they brought in, Emerson Royale in the summer. Friend of the show, Amir, is a Spurs fan. And even he's like, mate, he needs to go already. Matt Doherty, they desperately try to get it from Wolves. They brought him in. They want to get rid of him as well. The recruitment is poor. And again, fundamentally, as they've done over the last 4 or 5 years, they're relying on Harry Kane and Son, again, every single week. And it's just getting a bit boring now. Nick, I just wanted to pull up a point, though. Kenny Jackett biffed off on Tuesday night.
Yeah, Orient.
The O's.
Yeah.
Kenny Jackett.
Poor form doing for Kenny, as it does for many a manager.
2 points out of 30, mate.
Yeah, can't argue with the results. It's a results business, as we nearly said with our own Gary Rowett not so long ago. But also it shows how things can turn with, in football. But there we are. Big thank you.
The thing is, though, I was going to say just before we go, sorry, the thing is with that Kenny Jackett thing, there's a guy who I work with, massive Leyton Orient fan. He was coming in punching the air. And I just said to him, I was a bit like, obviously, I'm not closely following Leyton Orient, but I'm like, Kenny Jackett's a long-term manager. He comes in, clears out the deadwood and gets you back up and running again. I went, you've not given him time to clear out all the deadwood. You've seen him come in and think you're now going to make the top 6 and win the league by a canter. It's not going to happen at Leyton Orient. You know, like I know they're a little bit of a yo-yo up and down team, but when it goes bad for Orient, it's horrid. And someone like Jackie, I'm not saying it because he's Millwall or ex-Millwall, and I'm a fan of him in particular. But if you shouldn't sack someone like Kenny Jackett if you're someone like Leyton Orient, he needs to come in, realise what he needs to do, get rid of them, and then rebuild again. That's what he did with us, and that's how he got us from third from bottom in League One to a steady Championship team.
Absolutely. A lot depends on the soundness of the owner, I think, and I think that's one thing we are very, very lucky at Millwall. We've said it before, we'll say it again just to close the show. We're very lucky to have an owner like John Berylson who doesn't panic under fire, to coin a current metaphor. Big thank you to Aaron and to Michael for joining us on the show. We're going to close out now with some voicemails left on our voicemail 0208 144 0232. Do leave me your messages, listeners. I'd love to hear from you. But we're going to close out now with some of the reaction from last night's fantastic win up at Derby. Until the next show at the weekend, post Sheffield United, it's a big thank you from Aaron, Michael, myself, Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.
Hello, Nick. John Rankin here on the coach back from a tremendous win. Derby County 1, Millwall 2. Absolutely fantastic performance. We went up there pretty defensively. That was our game plan. And we hit them on the break. And the first half, we were absolutely tremendous. Derby had nothing to offer. We let them have the ball. We took the ball off them. And Jed Wallace scored in the first minute or so. And then it was pressure on the break from Millwall constantly, with Tyler Bury scoring a beautiful goal from a wonderful piece of play. Second half, more of the same really, although Derby really pulled on the pressure. But we looked pretty solid at the back. They were never really going to score. They were putting balls into our box and we defended it well. And in the end, it was just a mistake on a very boggy pitch by Jake Cooper, and he sliced it into our net. So a little bit nervous at the end. As usual, we got nothing from the referee. But what a fantastic 3 points to win. Very happy. On the coach back now for a 4-hour drive. We're all buzzing. So come on, you Lions.
Thank you for listening to Achtung Millwall. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a cheeky little review. Arrivederci Millwall. Till next time.
Who do you want to watch?